Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. You can hear a pin drop out there. I mean, nothing's moving much except for Bitcoin. Now down 2,000, well off the low. We'll get to that. But equity markets here, after surviving a little dip last week and coming back off of the low, S&P's moving up above the little range, closing strong. Nothing's moving here. Waiting, I assume, for the inflation rate changes tomorrow at 8:30. There are auctions today, and some of them have moved the markets depending on, I guess, how much they sell or the lack thereof. 11:30 and 1 o'clock. Keep that in mind, and we'll see if these markets can get going here. At the Nasdaq, you see kind of a not a rounding bottom. And I'm hesitant as I look at it because it's so whippy. You can see dip up, a little more shallow, violent up, and a little rounding bottom right here, kind of like a hook, if you will, up and rounding. It's going to go higher. And we'll see if it gets through this resistance. We do have on different sectors, and here a correction bar. And prices get a little ahead of themselves there. And one of the things that we look for when it reaches resistance is, do we get a correction bar? What does it do at resistance? We assume sellers are going to be there. Our internals supported that. And on the dip, buyers stepped up and formed a bottoming tail bar. And we call it a correction bar because in this case, it took out 2 weeks lows and then got pushed right back up to the top of the range. They asked me, what would be a scenario if inflation continues lower? Well, it has been moving lower. It's still not at the 2% target that the Fed wants. But there are signs that, it's getting better. And that's why many now assume that the Fed is done. So as the numbers come out tomorrow, and on Wednesday there's excuse me, PPI numbers, and 2 o'clock is the Fed decision on interest rates tomorrow, which everybody believes they're going to do nothing. So as we've been, Wednesday, talking about recently, that interest rates have been coming down, and that's a good thing, and the market's rallied. Now they're at support, which, as we put together market internals, news, and what other markets are doing, our assumption is that interest rates are going to begin to stabilize down here, and they have. So what we have to watch for in the coming days and into next year is, this is trending down into this major support area. Does this begin to bottom out and then turn up? And if it does, then just as we have all year, this year, is that if interest rates start to move up, that's going to be one of the underpinnings of equities, that equities would begin to correct. Right now, they're not. They're just holding up here, and they're going to wait to see what this news is tomorrow and make some assumptions about how the Fed is going to interpret those numbers, and then what will happen next. The other thing is the dollar, which has been, moved up a little bit. That's really not doing much of anything this morning. So, this is a deep retracement off of the low, right into that pivot there and a little bit above it. So if this was to continue to move up and interest rates start moving up, and crude oil, which is down near support, and it should begin to stabilize. And if, those three start to move up, that's going to put some pressure on equities. But, they've moved so far off of the low that our assumption is that any kind of a retracement should be buyable. And so as we look at the spiders, you see there's a giant unfilled gap here, which at some point will get filled. The ones down here, well, we cannot be so sure. That'll be interesting to see in 2024 if we get corrections that come down here. And, we'll assess the intermarket relationships during the year and make some, a bias about that. But with this type of a move, it leaves a lot of room for prices to pull back and not violate the strength of this move. So there'll be plenty of times as some correction does come that, whether it's this unfilled gap or the 50 MA, which it will start to rise as this at some point begins to correct whatever it's going to do. So we'll just have to see what happens as far as the inflation goes and what the numbers are. And, and now, you hear talk that by April or so, they believe the Fed will cut interest rates. And so for them to do that, they definitely have to see that inflation has backed off and maybe the economy is slowing down a little bit too much than what, they might like. So that's what makes markets, and we'll just see what happens, So is it possible for a gap not to be filled if strong support develops? Of course, Joe. Of course. But this is such a big gap, and it's relatively close that it would be logical for this to get filled at some time in 2024. We'll just have to see what happens, whether, the ones down here get filled. Maybe it's years before they get filled. We'll see. At the end of the year, we'll look at the monthly charts, the quarterly charts, the yearly charts, and assess, what happened this year in combination with different markets and timeframes. And, we'll be doing some of that in the last week of December in MT Live. So stay tuned. All right. So you can see markets aren't doing anything here. SPX. Just pull that down a little bit. Just check the numbers again. So now, same thing. And so that's, just too damn close. And could it get up to the top here? Of course, it could go to either one. There's some doubt whether buyers will step up and push this higher ahead of the numbers, but they certainly could. And, so these are relatively close. We need what we like to see. And when I say need, what we like to see is the markets up strongly or down strongly the day before or pre-market. And then, the distance between the prior day's close and the strikes that we're looking at that day are far away. This isn't that far away, and these arrows right here, for those that aren't aware, is marking off what the weekly average range is. And so assuming, if you take in the 5-day average range and say, well, just based on that, today could be a range of that distance. How far away are the strikes we're looking at? If prices were to move up with that average ranges, which is about 39 points, it could tag either one of these. And right now, the markets aren't doing much of anything. But based on how they consolidated since Thanksgiving and closed strongly on Friday, we believe, based on that, if they take out Friday's high, they could easily tag that upper number. And for some reason they start to move down, it could hit here. But most of the time when you have a pattern like this where you've got a breakout that initially failed and then a big red bar like this that closed at the low, which suggested it could come down here and at least test this pivot, and then it doesn't and closes strong, we're looking for it to go up. Well, things are just quiet now, so we'll see. We look at the futures, and you can see the similar pattern of the move up and the little rounding bottom. It's just quiet. The bottoming tail bar, you just drag that up there, easier to see. The bottoming tail bar that took out the prior week's close, and it's just flat here, doing nothing. YM, that was stronger. The Dow futures. Now, this is a pattern that I look at and think, wow, this is something that could form an M top. It's extended, two wide range bars where prices begin to go vertical, a greater than 100% retracement, a wide range bar on the weekly chart. While it's a bottoming tail bar, it doesn't take out a prior bar's low. And with this, we definitely want to set an alert under Friday's low. And generally in any of these markets, you want to have an alert under Friday's low. And, under the ideal scenario of a bullish market, any dip will stay, above the midline of Friday's range. We'll see if that happens. The Russell, and we're kind of hoping that this would bring up the rear. It has. It's consolidating at the top of a wide range bar. We had a topping tail. It hit the 200. It came back up. Could that be an M top? Sure. Or maybe it just goes sideways into tomorrow and goes higher. It's got room to go higher. Right now it's consolidating at that pivot to the left. And so, decent price action. A topping tail that takes out a prior 2 bars highs and closes near the low is a pretty strong signal that prices can go lower. And they did until they hit this 200 and minor support and flipped right back up again. So right now, it's just doing nothing. Absolutely nothing. As I mentioned, Bitcoin, it's, a little bit of a surprise. It's been holding up well, but now you've got this correction bar, whether it turns into a bottoming tail bar, who knows, but it got extended. You got a wide range bar on the weekly chart, momentum move here. It closed strong on Friday, and then it gaps down and, was down, I guess, just eyeballing this. Well, how much is that? It was down about 3,600 points, a little bit more. So pretty big range expansion to the downside. We'll see where it ends the day. So, there's definitely a bearish move beginning. It kind of looked like it could maybe get up to these pivots there. We're flying a little short of that. But still in an uptrend, but definitely taking a rest. Transports, they were weaker on Friday. And so as we look at bullish price action, we like to see that across the board. Meaning, if I see the transports acting strong, there's more and more information that supports the prior bullish price action. And this topping tail bar, where it took out that high, in this minor support area, these highs, and it gets above it, that's minor support. This is major support, the low prior to the higher high. And so now on a closing basis, it's still fine, but the rejection there is a concern as to whether this will go down. So this is something we'll see if it does. I'm just going to set an alert here. I don't have to do it later, but on my other system, but just to see if this starts to move down. So, you could do that and you don't have to watch it. Just let the computer watch it. See if the ETF might show anything, but this has more stocks than the regular transport index. So could be skewed a little bit. And we don't get much of any data there either in this pre-market. Really not doing much of anything there. just to take a peek at these currencies because of the dollar. So it would be supportive if the dollar might start moving down. As I look at the euro, this is in an area where this could start to move up. It's not. You can see it's moving down, but it's in an area where we'd look for this to start to make a turn. And if it did that, um, the dollar moving lower, this moves up, dollar should move lower. Um, that would help equities. This is in a buy setup area, kind of a square top, but still, the yen pulling back, giving back a whole lot of gains. But if we should see that dollar start to back off and interest rates back off a little bit, even though they're at support, that would help fuel equities. So we'll see how that plays out. And we might have to wait until tomorrow for that economic numbers to come out for things to get moving. All yours, Dan.
That reminds me of the wall of worry. And markets are always waiting for something, but it still moves in between. So they just have to assess how big of a bother is it. But things fully bullish until we get the turn. Um, Sam, this was on your list, RGA. I had this little one print up here, which I don't trust, but that's a big ascending triangle breakout. Bullish weekly monthly, RGA. A dash alarm went off. This was we were going to buy some call options on this, but the gap's messing it up. So, well, I gave it to him as a limit. But see, now for the limit of the call options to get filled, that means it has to, retrace too much. So it kind of, the gap's messing up the trade. So let me tell them to hold off on dash.
I think there's news on that stock, Dan. So probably better to back off.
Yeah, I mean, this was one that we contemplated nibbling on Friday, but didn't do it. Didn't want the weekend risk. All right, dash, you're gone. Jose on YouTube, let's see what you got. Well, Greg mentioned Bitcoin down. So I've been watching this. It's a climb, and it doesn't mean it has to stall here, but it means I'm going to start watching you. I said Friday, I said maybe it rallies to $200. I don't friggin' know, but I'll know when I know. And now that's a bearish gap, 141. See, a tad over 50%. So depending on how this closes, or under 30-minute low, I'll consider, nibbling on some call spreads above last week's high. Jose has some ideas here. Let's type them out. CXM. I don't know what you're thinking, Jose. There's no. Somebody in the green room asked Friday, "Is this a climactic buy setup?" And I said, "The way we define it, absolutely not. That is a nasty, nasty gap that couldn't bounce." But that does not mean you can't get an entry for a day trade. But there's no pattern for a swing right now. We need a lot more bars, a lot more evidence. UWMC, that's hard to type. Yeah, that's actually in our weekend letter. Yep, sure is. Closing breakout. A beautiful 15-minute chart and a day base. So yeah, that's a beautiful swing pattern in our weekend letter. DBI, I don't know what you're thinking, Jose. You're just saying some swing ideas. This one to me looks lower. Nasty gap down, just like your CXM, can't bounce. But now we have a 180 reversal from Friday. So even though it's down a lot, You can short Friday's low. Start off with a day trade, you know, stop. I'd give it a little room, 850 area, but that looks lower. Silk, not bad, just a bounce on a downtrend. And TEL, yeah, we have that in our weekend letter also. Yep, closing breakout, bullish consolidation, bullish weekly. Yep, price void. So the two best of your list there are five, Jose, are in our weekend letter. So that means you have some good training with us, I guess. Dave, zip. It's kind of a little buy setup, little slight bull flag kind of thing. Um, it's fine. I wouldn't rush into it. You still got all these overlapping bars. Let's see. This reminds me though, Dave, of this. I always do what's called the A/B test, as you know, in the green room. It has nothing to do with same sector or whatever. It has to do with, hey, let's compare these two patterns. Now, this is not the same as zip, but notice how it's better. It's been going sideways longer. It's above the 2050. I got a couple of red bars ignored. I have a price void. I just need like a catalyst. So over Friday's high, I think you can start nibbling on the IAC. A couple other alarms. Pan W. I had an alarm, but I'm just going to reset it because now it's back down. But that is a very bullish consolidation. It's far from the 20, but very, very bullish. MDB alarm. I had this as a put spread. We actually had this as a call spread on the gap down on earnings on last Wednesday. Had a beautiful gain. And now it's a sloppy buy setup at the 50 on minor support. So we gave this as a put spread, the 370s. But with the gap up, I don't think it's going to get anywhere near my desired credit. Docs alarm. See that now this I like as a directional. So Dave, Greg likes saying it's the same but different. And so that's what comes to mind when I look at docs and zip and IAC. You see, they all broke out. They're all consolidating in some manner. This one had a breakdown failure, went sideways, green bar, and now it's gapping up. So that looks fantastic. So I'm going to put that bottom right, both for a day trade and swing trade. And I had TTD alarm. So this broke out. It got killed over here. So it's just been in the emergency room. And then they move him down to the, whatever ward where he's out of the emergency room. And so now he's up and walking around Friday. So I have this as a put spread. So up alarm went off. And finally, W whiskey. Okay, I did have an alarm go off, but now it's back down. So this is a buy setup from a bottoming pattern after breakout. But it's not a quality buy setup because we want retracements from what we call a V top, which is a 2-bar turn, whereas this went sideways 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars. So I don't think this is going to go through this. There's too many bars. But as a put spread over Friday's high, the bet we're making is I think Friday's low is going to hold by this Friday. So let me reset my alarm on that. All right, those are all my alarms went off. Let's see what else we got cooking over here. All right, Charlie India is a massive, massive for a big $260 stock. Look at the size of that gap. So the news I heard, and I don't understand why it's gapping up this much. If this is the only news, they said they were calling off their buyout of Humana. And look at this bar. This tail is real. I remember this. So yeah, I think the news came out on this day. Whipping around, that's showing me the friggin' fundamentals and technical people. They don't know what to think of that news. That is one crazy range bar. Steve, I said Cigna. The news I saw was they are calling off their, yeah, I don't know. All I'm doing is telling you what the thing said. I don't know how far they were, if they made an offer. It was just rumors, whatever. I have an alarm on UNH, because this, regardless of that news, this is bullish consolidation. Let me set an alarm here at 5:51 on my other computer. So that, Wednesday, we're going to be talking about wide range bars. This is a great example of bullish price action in the top half of WRBs. So I love patterns like this. Actually, we're in some, actually. We did a few last week. Microchip is an open position. Up alarm just went off, very nice. We have a put spread on this. And I mentioned it could have been a directional too. All right, I got a ton of alarms going off here now. That TEL, that Jose and I were talking about pre-market in C. Up board is an open position. All right, TEL looks great. Zulu Sierra. That's just an early alarm, nothing to do quite yet. OSK, up alarm. All right, so that is a breakout. That was on our list. Starbucks alarm. Starbucks. Remember, we were watching a Climo over here. Now we have a retest. So now this is a better pattern. All right, look at Docs came down here. Greg, what do you think? 5-minute high? That looks great now. I'm going to check put spread too.
Definitely good for a day trade.
Now, why would it not be swing? Look at this beautiful void. I'd say target 99. Well, so that's what, $2, I guess. I'm going to check put spread too. 96s for Friday. 30 by 38 is all. So when they're that low, I say, all right, well, then what about just a $2 one? That's 20 cents. So do you think it's going to trade under 96, which is Friday's low? So let's just watch it for a few minutes. So dash middle chart coming in. Microchip. Stop 30-minute low. Till I said was a go, pull back. Pan W looks, if this were to close here, it's even better. It's better because then you got a little minor 1, 2, 3. Wow, IWM has a crazy 5-minute bar, if that's real.
I got the same one.
Look at that 5-minute bar up and down. Q's holding the best here. I noticed pre-market, Microsoft, wow, Amazon just took a dump. How are the Q's rallying with every Magnificent Seven cratering except for Netflix? How are the Q's were going? And so there's only one mathematical answer to that. It's the other 93 stocks are doing very well. But this is very, very strange to me that 6 of the 7 fangs are tanking on the 15-minute chart and the Qs are absolutely rocking. Greg, do you have any more insight? This is rare.
No,
What other
look in
93?
2000 to click on the NASDAQ 100 and look at the stocks that are in there and sort it by percent change on the day.
Right. I just don't have time. It's more, but here's SMHs, which is one obvious reason. So, a lot of tech stocks and XLK. XLK, if it closes here, looks like a long. Yeah, Netflix is rocking. So we actually had this as a directional, so now we're going to cancel it, obviously, because there's no setup anymore. But I had that as a short under last week's low. SAM IM 6, SIX. On your list, my alarm, just look at Starbucks bottom right. All right, so 6 looks great. All right, I'm gonna get rid of dash. Let's put 6 there. There was no juice for a put spread. All right, coin. I had Q's alarm, had that as a put spread. So that should get filled because it's already coming in. All right, up board. We're already in Riven up alarm. All right, up board. Let's move our stop. We can go break even now on the old up board.